The second biggest storyline coming out of that Big Ben and Kenny Pickett podcast was that Seven wasn't necessarily rooting for Kenny whenever he got his shot last year. But the first biggest storyline is, why the hell wasn't I in that third chair? That's what Steeler Nation needed. Let's get into the soundbite everyone's been talking about, and that is Big Ben revealing what his emotions were to Kenny Pickett being his successor.
Kenny didn't necessarily fail, but when someone comes to replace you, and you're like, I still feel like I had it. I hope he doesn't come ball out, because then it's like Ben who, right?
Right.
But honestly, I think as you started playing, and I found myself rooting more and more for you. You know what I'm saying? We sat down here and watched games, and we were high-fiving, going nuts when you were leading the team and doing things, and running and doing some of the trying to fight people, all that stuff. That
was my favorite, by the way.
Yeah,
I was like, you better swing on that fool.
Yeah. I feel bad, and I know I came on this show and said that I forget how I said it, but I apologized to you for not knowing how good he was going to be.
Yeah,
I just didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't know that you were the runner that you were. I just didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't aware, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'm glad that I was wrong in the sense of where I had you. I thought you'd be a quarterback that was good, that was going to come in. I think you're the future of this team. I really do, and I think they got, the fans should be lucky. They are lucky they got you. But that's what I'm going to say. I would say I was early on. I didn't want him to succeed because I didn't want him. They followed me up. I didn't want it to happen. I think that's probably the selfishness of me, and I feel bad for it. But as it went on, as the season went on, he got into this third game playing. I was rooting for him.
Yeah,
I was excited for you, and I wanted you to succeed. I wanted you to win the games. I wanted you to get to the playoffs. And so I feel bad that I felt that early on, but I'm glad that I transitioned into love and rooting for you.
Appreciate that.
I have your jersey I wear every Sunday. But
it's actually your jersey, but we taped +1 onto the other.
That works.
But no, it's been fun watching you. I enjoy texting you after games, and it's been fun watching, man. I'm a fan.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. Obviously, watching you growing up.
For those that have any complaints about what the GOAT had to say here, I suggest get a life, because dude is just being real. Dude's just being honest. Dude's just being transparent. And it's not like any of us haven't felt these emotions before in different circumstances throughout our lives, whether it's moving on from a girlfriend, moving on from a job, and in this case, you got moving on from a sports organization. If any of those entities do better without you, what does that say about you necessarily? And doesn't have to be truth or not, but it's a feeling, right? And that is a very natural reaction, I feel like. Obviously, you get over it, because if you constantly feel that way, it's going to do you no good. And Seven did say eventually, yeah, I was wrong for that. That was a selfish part of me. But I understand, man. The Steelers move on from this guy. He still thinks he had it, and he did, by the way. He gave 18 years of his life to this organization, 2 Super Bowls, and they end up moving on. So how would you feel? And it's not like Seven said it behind Kenny's back or anything in a passive-aggressive way, or went on a radio show. Said it straight up to his face. And it was in a casual conversation format. I don't think it was his intent to, I'm going to come out here and break news or anything. But that is eventually what happened, because all the Pittsburgh local media were talking about it yesterday. Also, I think was the first story on ESPN.com, if I can remember correctly. It was the top storyline on the main page, saying Big Ben didn't want Kenny to succeed, something like that. And I don't even think this has anything to do with Kenny, actually. I think this is just more of Ben sorting through his own thoughts on the situation. It could have been any quarterback drafted in the 2022 draft in the first or second round. I'm sure Ben would feel a very similar way. And it's probably more directed at the organization, too, for moving on from him. It has nothing to do with Kenny. The organization, in my opinion, again, sabotaging Seven in his final season, then moving on from him. It could have you feeling a certain way. But then, as time goes on, time can heal all wounds and whatnot. And I guess Seven is in a better place with it, and is actually rooting for Kenny, and thinks Kenny's the franchise, and he's not wrong. But in other news, the Steelers were wheeling and dealing yesterday, making a total of 4 transactions, releasing 3 players, but also adding someone. The 3 releases were linebacker Tay Crowder, running back Master Teague, that one's a bummer, and then also linebacker Emeka Egbo. And then they ended up picking up Toby Ndukwe out of Sam Houston State. He actually was invited to the rookie mini camps and was able to make the team off that tryout. So with this one, I don't really think there's any big storylines here. I think the 3 releases were more about just clearing up some roster spots. The name out of the group that will probably get the most attention is Tay Crowder, but also you got Master T just because he has a badass name. But with Tay, he played a lot with the Giants before coming to Pittsburgh. Had a 130 tackle season in 2021 and also appeared in a total of 31 starts up in New York. So I think most of us felt like he was going to at least get a chance through training camp because our inside linebacker depth is a little light right now. He would have been considered the 3rd or 4th guy competing with Mark Robinson for that spot. I mean, probably both of them would have made the team as it sits right now. So makes me curious if, again, another move is on the horizon, namely Quan Alexander or a Reuben Foster, if that doesn't happen once the USFL season ends. But you also have today the Steelers making a visit with a 9-time vet, has 3 double-digit sack seasons, and Markus Golden. So I think this will be a really sick move. Like, dude, if you mean to tell me we could bring in, with all these roster openings now, we could bring in a Markus Golden to be our 3rd edge rusher, compete with like a Nick Herbig and Quincy Roche. I mean, it probably would be Markus Golden that gets the nod early on, which I have no problems with. I feel like he'd be a great 3rd edge rusher for us. You mean to tell me we could bring him in? We bring in a Quan Alexander too. I don't know if there's anyone else out there I'm missing that could potentially help the roster. Hell, I wouldn't mind bringing in both Quan Alexander and a Reuben Foster. Call me crazy, but I think that would make the inside linebacking core pretty damn impressive. But again, what I think this comes down to is you just got to shout out Omar Khan for trying to find any little advantage or just leaving no stone unturned with this offseason and really trying to improve this roster from the top down. So hopefully we do sign Markus Golden. I think it'd be a great signing. But let me know what you guys think about Markus Golden visiting today, some of the transactions from yesterday, and also Big Ben's comments on Kenny Pickett. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Big Deke News on a Tuesday. Stay chilling. Peace.